This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, hello, and how are you? Come on in and stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. Invite your friends and share this with your friends. This show allows you, the viewer, to be connected with some of the best people in the sports entertainment industry around the globe. I'm your host, Coach Scott Fields. I am super excited for today's guest. I just was talking with Delray here before we got on camera and told him that my high school PA announcer actually introduced me as Delray my senior year. So it's great to have Delray Brooks with us. Delray is the 1984 co-Mr. Basketball in Indiana, played for Michigan City Rogers. He took his team to 28-1, and we're going to get into that. But I'm talking about, player of the year, uh, so many accolades coming out of high school, went off to play at Indiana University, transferred to Providence, has done phenomenal things in the world of basketball. But to have a former Mr. Basketball on the show today, I think is going to be very insightful. So if you're listening to us in podcast form today, Delray and I say turn that knob up. We're about to put that hoops flavor in your ear, and it's all about Indiana basketball, baby. Delray Brooks, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me and looking forward to our conversation.
I think we're going to have a great time here. At least I know I will. Uh, let's talk about it. What a great senior year you had, and again, we spoke off camera 40 years ago. Michigan City Rogers 28-1, and then Mr. Basketball. Take us through like that junior year going into your senior year. What was it like having all that hype and all the, I don't know if it was pressures or were you excited for that senior year?
Yeah, I was excited. We had a disappointing regional loss my junior year, so it wasn't really for me all the notoriety or buzz or none of that. My focus was trying to win a state championship, so that was my main drive. And back then we didn't have cell phones, social media, or any of that. So it was real. I think it was a lot easier for us to focus on task at hand, and that's basically what me and my teammates did. We were committed to trying to win a state championship.
See, and I like that. So let's digress for a minute here because 1984, like you say, there's no social media, there's no, there's no 3-point line. The shorts
No.
were short. There was no shot clock. Recruiting was different in that time. There was not as much travel basketball or AAU.
Right.
You, however, were invited to a few things after your senior year, but take us through the recruiting process and what it was like meeting with like a coach Bobby Knight at IU where you ended up signing, but who else was kind of in the running? Because I think Notre Dame was kind of like maybe number two for you at that time.
Yeah. My I look back on my recruiting. It was was new to me and my family. Uh, My dad was a very no nonsense individual, very stern guy. So, I hear a lot of stories about players that were highly recruited during that era being offered things. And my family was never offered anything, because I just think people understood that my dad wasn't going to stand for that. So, and then, it was the difficult part for me. And as I've gotten older and reflect and try to think about the whole experience. Sometimes I think having too many schools to choose from is just as bad as not having enough schools to choose from because you automatically have to eliminate some situations that may have been better for you. Um, I chose Indiana because when I first drove on its campus, it's everything I envisioned college to be. It, Even to this day, I still just marvel at the campus at IU. And Coach Knight was a very good coach and a magnetic personality. And I wasn't afraid of the sternness. I've grown up with that all my life. So,
Yeah.
um, but so I chose Indiana over Notre Dame. Now I live in South Bend, and um, every time I leave the house, I have to go by the campus. Matter of fact, when I go walking, I walk on the campus, and I just, you know, I wonder what it would have been like if I'd have chose Notre Dame instead of Indiana. Be that as it may, but um, so that was, that's what went into my decision, and I was confident enough in my skills that I felt like I could play anywhere. Um, and as you know, later on in life, as I became a recruiter myself at the University of Kentucky, I realized that players need to choose a place that's conducive to how they play and how they can go and get better as a basketball player. Um, and that's not something that I took in consideration when choosing Indiana.
Yeah. And I think it's great because again, we mentioned 40 years ago, there's a lot of time to reflect and look
Right,
back and if I would have known then what I know
right,
now, of
right,
course, we could have made so many different choices in our life, but that's all about
right,
growth and development and,
right,
you know, finding out who you are. Now
right,
you knew you had the skills to play anywhere. And again, in that time, a lot of the recruitment was, a lot of bulk letters were being sent to your high
right.
school and mail was being sent. So I'm sure you had shoe boxes and shoe boxes full of letters from colleges and
I had
universities
a,
and
I had a, I
coaches.
had a, I had a trunk full.
Yeah. Well,
I
we'll
had a
talk about
trunk.
some of those. What were some of the first letters that you ever received, and how early of an age were you when you started getting some attention from college coaches?
I was the summer of my eighth grade year. I received my first letter from the University of Louisville, um, but that is because I had went to their camp. Um, Tony Branch, who
Oh,
played at Michigan City Elston, who went on to play at Louisville. His dad and my dad were on the fire department together, so I went to camp down in Louisville and stayed in their camp for 2 weeks and then rode home with Tony. So I that's what put me on the map as far as receiving letters from colleges was the two
And
weeks that
and
I
think
spent.
about back in our generation, that was so exciting to go to the
Yeah,
mail or have your head basketball coach be like, "Hey, Delray, we got a letter from, so
yeah,
and so." And that was always exciting just to know that there are people with interest. But when you're being inundated with mail and media guides and the recruiting process back in the
right.
mid 80s or early 80s, I'm sure it had to be overwhelming with the amount of attention that you were getting, and then probably coaches starting to come to practices and coming to games. And what was that like for you going into that senior year when you're getting a lot of attention before you made the
Well,
announcement to where you were going to go?
yeah, it was. I guess it was exciting, but Scott, I never really paid attention to it. Um, my whole thing is when I stepped across those lines, I was trying to beat you. I wanted to win. So uh, all the outside noise, I'm sure it was fun for people around me, maybe family members, not necessarily my immediate family, but for me, it was just my passion for the game of basketball was unparalleled, and all I wanted to do was play. Uh, Guard you, prevent you from scoring, and score at every opportunity that I had. So I really didn't. It really didn't phase me all that much. It really didn't. It wasn't
Yeah.
something I was like, wow, wow, um, because I I looked later on. Um, I received letters from every just about every institution in the country, and like Villanova won it in 1985, and I go back and look, I had letters from Villanova that I didn't even realize I had. So it was
You probably didn't
just
even know who they were or what they were about.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Who's
no,
Rolly Massimino?
right. So and I went to 5 star every summer, 5 star basketball camp. So that means every college in the country scouted that camp, and so you know, every time I got home from camp, there was tons and tons of letters. Like I said, I had a whole trunk full of letters.
Wow. And I think it's great that you can share that story because back then that's just the way it was. And five
Right,
star, Howard Garfinkel, I mean,
right,
some of the best coaches at the college and professional level come in to be camp counselors for that. And so
right,
that's the coaching that you were getting. So that buzz and those coaches talking amongst each other about, hey,
right,
this Delray Brooks, man, he can play, he's got a skill set. And so that that word getting out was the social media of the time.
right, right. Yeah, it
Well,
was.
and
Five star was a unique experience for me. I heard, like you said, I've heard all the top coaches in the country um, speak while I was at camp there, and have a funny Coach K story. Um, because they bring the best players out when they lecture, and um, he brought me out and he told me to get in the defensive stands, deny the ball on the wing. The guy popped out, and I'm denying the ball. And the guy catches the ball. The player catches the ball. And so, but I'm thinking I'm in great form. This, and he says, "No, I want you to deny the ball." So he does it a second time. Guy catches the ball. He says, "I hear when you don't do what the f you're supposed to do here at Five Star, they send you the f home. If you do not deny him this ball, I am sending you home." And all I could think about is that my mom and dad has spent all this money for me to go to camp. He said, I can't get sent home. So he throws the ball again, and I steal it, and he said, that's defense, and the defense and attitude. And I was like, oh my God, I can't, I was just like, there's no way I can get sent home. But I thought I was doing what he was asking me to do,
yeah.
and then
So the what was lost in translation was as a coach, defense is not allowing your man to catch the ball.
right,
You're
right,
playing defense once your man catches the ball, deny him from catching it, then you're
right,
doing your job.
right, exactly. That's the point he was
and
trying to
and I'm
make.
sure when everybody's been telling you how great you are for so long, and all of a sudden someone's correcting you, and you're getting a new style or philosophy of coaching, you're like, wait a minute, I'm good at this.
Right. But Scott, I never, like people will talk to me and come back to me and say, "Hey, didn't know that you were this and that." And I'm like, I breathe the same air you breathe. So I never even looked at it that I was good. I was at camp. You know what I mean? So I was there to learn and to get better. So I never, if he would have just told me, "Don't let the guy catch the ball," I wouldn't have let him catch it. That was real simple
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
I was trying to do what I thought he was asking me to do, and so,
Yeah.
like you said, lost in translation. Yeah,
Well, and then think about that, not segueing into what you do now as coaching, the importance of communication and how we
right,
communicate and how do we,
right,
deliver that message to who we're trying to inspire or lead or mentor.
right.
That's very important. So
Yeah,
what a valuable lesson you learned there for the rest of your life.
yeah, yeah, without question.
I love that. Well, and we as basketball players and we as athletes, very competitive by nature. I mean, you also lettered in baseball and tennis. I'm
Mhm,
I'm an advocate for multi-sports because I feel like, there's less burnout. You cross train,
right,
it can keep you focused throughout the year.
right.
With you being a multi-sport athlete at Michigan City, do you feel that that really helped you? And do you wish more coaches were open-minded to that? Or what is your philosophy on that now coaching at the high school
Yeah.
level?
I think that I think it can be beneficial. I played football from the time I was 8 to the time I was 13. So the first real coaching I got was in the sport of football. And when I say real coaching, I mean real coaching. My grandmother said I can never go and watch another practice of yours because I had tough coaches, but we won the championship 4 out of the 5 years I played. So I was with a good organization with good coaching, and so but football helped me because when I started as a freshman, I was 6'2" and a half, 145 pounds. But if you wanted to get physical with me, that didn't bother me at all.
That's because the
we
physicality of
could
being bumped and banged and tackled and going
we
into the
can do
paint
it.
to finish a
Right.
layup, that's no
We
big
can do
deal.
this too. Yep. This way you want to. We can play like this all day. And
Yeah.
so that helped me as far as that's concerned. Just the the toughness and having to be tough out on the basketball floor. I think I got from playing my dad one on one growing up, but also playing football. So and then I played baseball uh, from the time I was 8 to my junior year in high school. Picked up tennis in middle school and really played tennis to stay in shape and it helps you, with my agility, quickness, lateral movement, and all that. So yeah, I believe, excuse me, I believe that all those other sports that I played helped me in the game of basketball.
I love that, and I'm glad we could chime in on that because I see so many coaches that force it's basketball and it's basketball year round, and I'm like, oh, but man, the disciplines and the skills that they can pick up from other sports are so
Right,
needed. I like you, I was quarterback of my high school football team. I ran
right,
track, qualified for the state in long jump, believe it or not, and so all those. I also played baseball, so for
right,
me all those sports kind of kept me busy, kept me active, kept me focused. I
right.
had to keep a certain GPA to stay eligible. So those things, really helped me. And I think it's beneficial for that. We're competitive by nature. And so then you become Mr. Basketball with Troy Lewis out of Anderson. What did that feel like? I mean, yeah, you're still Mr. Basketball, 1B, but
Right.
did it bother you a little bit at that age? Because we're immature at that age. And was it like, no, I should be Mr. Basketball, and why do I have to share this? What was your thought process on that?
Um, Troy and I became really good friends. I actually saw him this past basketball season. He's an assistant basketball coach at a school in Ohio, and they played La Lemire, so I drove over and watched the game, and then we had dinner, and so we're real good friends. It's an award. It's I'm privileged, or I'm not. I'm happy to share it with Troy. I guess is the best way to put it. Um, but when you look at it, I was uh, the number one high school player in the country by USA Today and ESPN. Yet I'm a co-Mr. Basketball. So
Right? Yeah. I
you
guess it
figured
always
out
helps
now.
when you've got a story there. But
Yeah, you
and
figured
also
out.
too, in 1984, you and Danny Manning are the only high school players in the country who are invited to go work out and try out for Team USA.
Mhm.
Talk about that experience.
That experience. Now, uh, if you know all the players that were at that trials, um, many of them are considered to be the top 50 players in the NBA and then the top 75 players in the NBA.
That's right.
Now,
Drop some of those names for our viewers.
I'm getting ready to because I spent
Hey,
seven,
there's some
I, s-
juice there.
but I spent like in the Olympic trials, you have cliques or groups of people that walk together, eat together, do everything together. So, how is it that the group that I'm with includes Steve Alford, who later became my teammate, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Chuck Persons, and my roommate was about a guy named Steve Bradley. I believe he played at South Florida. So that was the group that I hung out with.
Ooh.
How unbelievable is that? And so um, I got to see Michael and you know up close and personal for 5 days, and he never lost a game playing pool. He never lost a game playing ping pong. He was getting uh, shoes, 3 or 4 shoes a day from all the shoe companies who wanted to sign him. Um, it was just an incredible experience, and we wore the same size shoes. So I said, and I'm an 18-year-old kid. "Oh, Mike, let me get a pair of those shoes." He said, "What I look like? The welfare department?" And I'm saying to myself, "There's no way he's gonna wear all these shoes." So fast forward, I'm coming to register for class, and the team is practicing. So the fact that I'm going to be on the team. So I could come to practice, had access, go in the locker room. By this time, he's been drafted by the Chicago Bulls. Now, during the Olympic trials in April in Bloomington, he was complaining about the weather, how cold it was compared to North Carolina. So the first thing I say to him, I say, Mike, what you gonna do, man? You drafted by Chicago. You know you don't like that cold weather. He said, Delray, first thing I'm gonna do is buy me a mink. Okay. So that's my second encounter with him. My third encounter with him, I graduated from college now. I haven't seen him since I registered for school in Indiana. My dad's the fire chief in Evanston at the time, and so I go. One of our volunteer assistants when I was at Providence was now an assistant at Northwestern, and I go to talk to him, and he asked me if I wanted to go to the Bulls practice, and I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, I know someone. I'm gonna tell him put your name on the list, and you can go to practice." So I go to practice, watch practice, everything. I was able to go down to the floor after practice. He came right up to me, Delray, man, what's going on? Ooh, how you doing? He hadn't seen me, and now he was Mike. He was Jordan,
Yeah, yeah.
and he said, "Hey, you gonna hang out with us tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 I'll hang out." And I'm saying to myself, Ain't no way I'm hanging out with y'all." But it's just that just the type of person that he is. He's had an indelible effect on me, and I was able to spend that time with him. And I have three boys and a daughter. My oldest son is named Michael. My
Wow.
youngest son is named Jordan. So you think he had an effect on me?
Wow. I
Yeah,
love hearing that. Love
yeah.
hearing that. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Coach Scott Field Show, and we're having story time here with Delray Brooks, 1984 co-Mr. Basketball in Indiana, ESPN, USA Today's Player of the Year. We're talking about the Olympic trials. As a player, and you're being exposed, and you're now around Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan, and you're being introduced to Steve Alford, who was going to be your teammate there at Indiana University. What takeaways as a player, because you're measuring yourself skill wise, what did you take away from a Michael Jordan in the athleticism, or what did you add to your game using that as a measuring stick to get prepared to go into your freshman year of college?
Well, what it taught me was that I had a lot of work to do. That I hadn't arrived by any estimation. I had a lot of work to do, and uh, you look back, and I always consider myself a hard worker, but maybe I didn't work quite hard enough. But I had a lot of work to do. I remember this one drill where we had to guard each other one on one from half court, and I guarded everybody from inline to inline. Like Coach Pitino told my dad he's the best on-ball defender I've ever seen because
Wow.
he had long arms, quick hands, and I could take the ball from you, and it was very difficult for you to get the ball up the court. So that was my mindset, and that was what I was doing. I'm still looking for Johnnie Dawkins. He crossed me over so fast and went by me with the layup. He doesn't know that, but I'm still looking for him. And
Johnny
so,
D, boy.
yeah,
Of
so
course,
then I come
went on
back.
to play at Duke.
Right. So then I come back and Alvin Robinson is guarding me. I'm giving him I end up scoring, but it probably took me 10, 15 seconds. I'm giving him everything I think I got in my toolbox. And I get through and I'm like, you gotta be I was just, winded. It was exhausting. But to come full circle with the whole Olympic thing, my son Michael is second in charge of USA basketball. Um, he he's responsible for putting all the youth teams together, the Nike Hoop
That's
Summit, all that, and he's traveling with the Olympic team now. Sean Ford, who's in charge of USA basketball, his brother and I played, or his brother played with us at Providence College. He's a year behind me. But so when you say a full circle moment,
I
my
love
my
hearing that.
son is with the Olympic team
Right. Isn't that
for the rest of
great?
the summer.
I,
Yeah, it's
you
just
know,
crazy.
I think about how blessed I've been because of basketball and
Yeah,
accolades, and that things are all wonderful. But the relationships that
yeah,
we form throughout this game are so impactful. And you
yes,
talked about, Michael Jordan and, your son's being, named after him. And, now, there he is with USA basketball. Think about those relationships because I mean,
right,
you're with Coach Bobby Knight going into your freshman year, and then you decide, hey, this is not the right fit for me. Coach Rick Pitino was on the rise. I mean, an
right,
energetic, positive, I mean,
yeah,
just dynamic coach. I mean, so two great basketball minds that you're learning from with Coach
yeah,
Bobby Knight and the successes that he had. And now you're
yeah,
going and you're now working with, Coach Pitino as a player. Talk about the differences that you saw as a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old that just made it a better fit for you and your style of play and your skill set.
yeah. So I get to Providence, and it's a bit of a culture shock. I go from a school, Indiana at the time, I think had 30 something thousand students, huge campus. Uh, I go to Providence, there's 3,500 students. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is different.
Yeah,
Um,
now you're Delray Brooks in a classroom and not a social security number, right?
yeah, right, right. And so it's different. And so, but basketball is basketball. Like I said, when I step on the lines, is court's a line, there's a free throw line, the rims around, backboard. So all that's the same. So, uh, and coach, uh, the similarities between Coach Knight and Coach Patino's are both very demanding. Very very demanding. Um, Coach Patino's puts a lot of emphasis on player development and player improvement. So we did a lot of what we call individual instruction, which is different, which really really liked. But when I transferred to Providence is when the book Season on the Brink came out.
That's right.
So Stu Jackson, who was one of the assistant coaches at Providence at the time, um, we get through with practice. He says, "Hey, Delray, come here, come here." I said, "Yeah, coach, what's going on?" He said, "I read Season on the Brink last night." He said, "You thought you were in for a freaking change, didn't you?" You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I get it, I get it. But yeah, so they're both were very demanding, and they wanted to win, you know, um, which is something that I've always wanted to do. And I tell everybody, even to this day, that they keep score for a reason, um, and that's you're to win. The object of playing is to win, not just to play. I played tennis, and we used to volley before warming up, but once you play to win, you don't just play
That's
just to
right.
be out. You play to win, and I think that gets lost in translation a lot of times, especially with AAU now the way it is.
Oh,
You play the game to win. That's why they keep score. That's just my philosophy.
that's right. That's right. I love it. Now, think about I'm going to drop some names here because again, loving the game of basketball.
Right.
Man, you playing with Steve Alford at Indiana
Mhm.
University, and now you transfer to Providence College, and you've got a young, hungry guard who's trying to prove himself in Billy Donovan, who's now an NBA head coach.
The
Compare and
hardest
contrast those two
Billy is
players.
Billy is the hardest working uh, player I've ever been around. I
Wow.
thought I thought I was a hard worker, and Billy and I would play one on one, and um, I was just as quick and I was taller, so he struggled with me, but he was gonna keep playing until he won one, and our shirts would be wet, we'd have to change shirts, and his transformation from before coach got there to when coach got there, because Billy was going to transfer,
That's
and
right. Yeah.
Coach Pitino called him in and said, and this all happened before I got there, called him in and said, "Hey, give me work with me. And if you, after working with me, if you still want to transfer, I'll give you my blessing. And the rest is history. And
Yeah, he just, I mean,
Billy,
he decided he's going to get better, and he put the
yep,
work in, and then you
yep.
and Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys scored 50 points combined together a few times, and en route to a successful year. So talk about what that was like, being in the backcourt with him.
Yeah, well, you know, um, we all hear the word, you know, hard work, hard work. And I'm a living testament that I never worked harder than I did my junior year at Providence College. And what we were able to achieve because of that hard work, not just me, but the rest of my teammates. Um, we worked extremely hard. I think I was 205 when the season started. When the season ended, I was 178 pounds.
Whoa. Yeah.
So
Wow.
and there was no 20-hour a week rule back then. So we would get up in the morning, shoot free throws, walk through, have breakfast, go to class, come back for individual instruction, um, then practice, go to study hall, come back at 10 something at night for free throws, another walkthrough. So it was just nonstop. And I never forget, I lost some credits in transferring, and graduating was very important to me. So that year, um, I had 18 and 17 credit hours respectively.
Ooh.
So I was going to class all day, going to individual instruction. That's the only time they could fit it in, because they usually fit in individual instruction in between your classes. There
Right.
was no way. So mine was after my classes was over. So
Well,
in individual
a
instruction,
17, 18-hour class load, because you got labs. I mean, there's a lot of time
right?
spent right
Yeah.
there.
And long story short, individual instruction is an hour. When mine was over, I had like 15, 20 minutes before our normal practice would start.
Ooh.
So, so it
And a
was
Rick
just,
Pitino practice is not easy.
no, it was not easy, but fun. But there was this one particular day I'll never forget. I was just, I was out of it. I could not, I had no energy, could not move. I'll never forget Coach Jackson said, "Hey, you're gonna be all right. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better." And I don't know where I got the strength or energy from, but halfway through practice, I was able to get the second win, so to speak, and finish practice. But it was grueling, but we enjoyed going to practice, because we could see ourselves getting better, and we started to win, and to have belief in what it is that we were doing.
Ah, well, I, I love hearing that, because I'm hearing I'm peeling the layer of the onion, and I'm hearing
Mhm.
the dedication. I'm hearing the laser-like focus. I'm hearing the discipline. I'm hearing the intensity, because transfer portal, NIL, I mean, kids are transferring now, and things aren't going. So there's so many facets that are in that, but the life lessons that you're learning through this grind and hard work, and
Right.
seeing that hard work paid off. I mean, I know they call us old school old heads nowadays, but man, when you put in the work, it's going to reward you back for what
Yeah.
the
No,
what the
not a
effort
question.
you put in. So
Yeah.
take us through a 24-hour day of Delray Brooks at Providence College under Coach Pitino.
Well, yeah, like I just said, we first of all, preseason, we're running on the track. Um, we're getting up normal time. We're doing preseason. There was no, getting up early for basketball, so to speak. So we're just running. But we part of our regiment, we had to run 4.5 miles in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And if you didn't make it, you had to get up at 5 or 6 in the morning to run. So my junior year, the first time we ran him, we had to run him in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And I didn't make it, right? So I had to get up in the morning and run.
Oh,
Okay, but the next time, Scott, the next time we had to run him, they're calling out the names and your times and all that. And they said, Brooks, Donovan, I can't remember, Lewis, and I can't remember, maybe Daryl. But we had to run it in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, I'm pretty sure I got a pretty good poker face and I was expressionless, but inside I'm saying, how am I going to make it in 2 minutes and 30 seconds when I didn't make it in 2:45? How am I going to cut 15 seconds off of these things? And so of course I didn't make it that day either, right? I think we ran them 4 times during that preseason. The very last time I made all 3 of them. I only had one more to make. I come in at 2:30.025 or whatever.
Oh,
I couldn't be mad at nobody but myself. But I
oh,
was just like, so, but fast forward my senior year, I made every single one of them. But that was preseason, our typical day. We'd run, then we'd play, then we'd go to class, have study hall. But during the season, like I said, we would get up in the morning, have shoot free throws, um, have breakfast, and then whatever your individual instruction schedule was, uh, class, regular practice, then study hall after dinner, then come back 9, 10 o'clock, shoot more free throws, go over. If we were in the season, we would go over who we were playing and walk through. So it was an all day affair. It
that's
was an
right.
all day affair,
I
and but it was, for us, it was worth it. We all have those memories of going to the Final Four, and nobody thought we could we could make it that far but us, and but we thought that because of the work that we put in. We felt like nobody had worked harder than we had.
I
So
love that. Love that. I
plus we could shoot.
There you go. That's
Plus we
right.
could
You put it
shoot.
in the basket and you're
And,
defending 94 feet and up
yeah.
tempo,
Okay.
that
And I
Pitino
tell
style,
I
huh?
tell everybody, everybody says defense wins, defense wins. Yeah, defense is good, but you can play the greatest defense in the world. If you can't put it in the basket, the object of the game is to put it in that basket. If you can't put it in there consistently and efficiently, you're not going to win. So
Amen.
uh, you have to be able to score, and we can score at a pretty good clip.
Love hearing that. And Delray, I was a FIBA head coach for years, and I
Okay.
had a couple Coach Pitino players play for me. I coached in Puerto Rico as a head coach and had Himel Martinez that was on your Kentucky teams. But then in Germany,
Okay.
I actually had Providence College Abdul Shamsuddin,
Yeah,
6'10
okay.
lefty, who
Okay.
played for me in Germany.
Yep.
So to have those Pitino players, I mean, they came with the work ethic. They came with
Mhm.
good skill sets because of that player development.
Right.
And so, as a FIBA head coach or an NBA coach, you always knew when a guy had gone through a great program, had been well coached, because they had it. They would
Right.
work hard, they were polished, they were skilled. They usually had a better understanding of the game because they were
Mm.
pressured and coached and coached hard. And
Right.
I think there's something to be said to that. 1996, you win a national championship with Coach Pitino on the bench with him at the University of Kentucky. Take us through that memorable season. And because, like you said, it's about winning, it's about putting it in the
Yeah.
hole. Take us to
Well,
1996 now, being on the bench as an assistant with Coach Pitino.
it's hard to take you to 1996 if I don't take you back to when I first got there in 1992, or how I got there. Billy and I are very, very close. And his dad had a vacation home in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And at the time, I was living in Delray Beach, Florida. Yeah, I know
How
Delray Beach.
appropriate.
People would look at my license and go, "Really?" I didn't. Yeah. But so so he said, we may have a position for you at Kentucky. Would you be interested? I said, yeah. He said, now you may have to be called something else, but coach would like you to be around and be. I said, Billy, you guys want me to wash dishes? I'm coming. Right? So this Billy talks to coach, I never talk to coach or anything about coming there till I'm there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
um, so I'm there. I get there in June, or yeah, June, right before camp starts in 1992. So June of '92. Jamal Mashburn's last year there. My first year there, we go to the Final Four in New Orleans, where we went in '87. So it's me, Billy Donovan, Herb Sendek, and Coach Pitino. We were all together in Providence, and so we're all together at Kentucky going to the Final Four again. So just just amazing. And so in '93, '94, we had a little bit of a down year. Um, um, Actually, that was my first year as a full-time coach because I believe Herb had left to go to Miami of Ohio, and so and I was in Florida again, and because we had time, we had time off, and I was in Florida, and Billy called me and said, "Hey, you gotta get back here." I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "Herb's taking the Miami of Ohio job, and Coach needs to talk to you." I said, I said, "All right, I'm on my way." Coach calls me in and tell me I'm going to be a full time assistant, and so me and Billy are full time assistants uh, in '93. So I'm 27, going to be 28 in October. Billy's going to be 28 in May. So it's like it's just we're assistants at one of the top basketball programs historically in the country, and we we struggle as a team, not because of me and Billy, but just just how things fell that year. And then Billy gets the job at Marshall, I think the next year. And then Jim O'Brien comes in. So, but '93, '94 was the only year that would be considered by Kentucky basketball standards to be a down year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every other year we were in the mix, and um, my greatest thing about that is that when I as a recruiter, I recruited from a position of strength because I let everybody know that I was recruiting, that you're not being recruited any more than I was. So let's get that out the way.
Yeah.
And back then, Scott, I could still put it on you. I was young. I
Yeah.
was young enough. I was young enough where I could still get with you if I needed to. So I recruited from a position of strength, but I also cared about the kids I was recruiting. Like when I go on recruiting trips, in the summer, I'd have to spend 5 minutes in my car before I go into an event because I would be surrounded by people in the profession who really didn't give a damn about the kids that they're recruiting.
Yep.
They saw
Yep.
them as a means to an end. And I'm a former player, and a lot of the kids that we were recruiting look like me.
Yep.
Okay, so I would be over in the corner by myself. I wasn't part of that whole clique, and because I just thought they were full of
Let's
it.
be honest. It's a cesspool
I tell everybody, I
of,
tell
of
everybody,
craziness.
it's a nasty business. But none of those kids I recruited was recruited any more than I was. So,
Yep.
and then I recruited 10 kids while I was at Kentucky that had NBA careers. Okay. Um, Mark Pope is now the head coach
Yeah.
at the University of Kentucky. My son called me. He said, "Dad, Mark was here at our camp for USA basketball. he wanted me to, he wants you to get in touch with him and this, that, and the other." So every time he sees one of my former players, they always, "Hey, I tell your dad to give me a call, give me his number so I can give him a call." So, um, you know, uh, Reed Shepard,
Yeah.
I coached his dad,
That's
you know,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
and I worked out his mom my first year because I was assistant strength. So I know, and he looks just like the both of them combined,
That's right.
you
That's
know,
so true.
and he can play, you know what I mean? But that's just so it just never ends for me, Scott.
That's right.
It just continues to go. But that whole experience at the University of Kentucky, that's where my two oldest kids were born. It's just, I can still go back there now, eat free at restaurants and all type of stuff. So it's just a special place.
That's right.
I think it's the I think it's the most craziest college basketball fan base in the country, and I went to IU.
I love it. Let me drop this knowledge on you. So I want to say it was 94 maybe. You guys came out to the Maui Invitational in Hawaii.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
the associate athletic director and assistant basketball coach at Chaminade University after
Oh, okay.
Kentucky had won the Maui Invitational with Tony Delk, I believe. I actually came back the next year, went down to Lexington because I'm an Indiana guy. I took the
Uh-huh.
big banner and some basketballs. Matter of fact, this one right here that has the Maui Invitational logo on it. And I took it to
Okay.
Coach Pitino at his office to kind of congratulate him to say, hey, you guys won the Maui Invitational.
Right.
and I brought those things to him as gifts. So
Yeah.
your and I
Yeah, I think
careers, we have,
yeah,
touched paths many
us. Yeah,
times
yeah. I
throughout
think we
our
won
throughout
that.
our
I think we
journeys.
won that on the last second shot. Because if I remember correctly, all of us jumping off the bench and Jeff Brasso and so yeah, I recall that. It's great. Like I said, it's just if I lost 15 games in 5 years there, that would be a lot. I'd have to do the numbers, but
Yeah.
we just didn't lose during that time.
And like you say, the amount of the players that you guys, that went from Kentucky being a blue blood into the NBA was just phenomenal. And then here you are now, you back in Indiana, you're coaching at the high school level, and you are a former player, so and you understand, and you're building relationships, you're building character. What's the biggest difference that you see right now, Coach, as you know, from when you graduated in 84 and here it is 2024? There's so many distractions for players. But what's your biggest message to the players today? Because you've been through both generations and you see it. What's your message to those players today that have so many distractions in social media and AAU travel basketball where they're playing games, but yet they may not be getting the skill development that's needed to have them ready to play at that level? Share that
Right.
with us.
Well, I just think that you have to be committed and you have to be serious with yourself. You know, as people term that people say now is there's levels to this game, and you got to be serious. I'm not currently coaching right now, but when I was coaching up here in high school in the city of South Bend, um, it was very frustrating for me because kids weren't serious, they weren't committed, they weren't make, they weren't willing to make the necessary sacrifices to win. So and I would tell them, I say, hey, what I'm telling you guys, I didn't read in a book.
That's right.
I've lived it.
That's right.
My
There's
entire life.
credibility coming behind what you're sharing from your
Yeah,
experience and
I
expertise.
would have. Yeah, I would have loved to have played for somebody like me.
Yep.
But and so that and that and they ask me all the time, "You're not coaching? No, you want to coach? No, I like my sanity." Um,
Right?
Now at the collegiate level, that's different. But and then people say, "Well, it's this generation. They just." But Scott, my feeling with that is they're doing it somewhere. Kids
Yep.
somewhere in this country are committed, are
That's
making the
right.
necessary sacrifices to be the best player that they could be. They're doing it somewhere. It's just
Yep.
not being done on a large scale in the area in which I reside right now.
Yeah. You know what? That's just real talk. I also coached high school this last year for the first time in my entire career because I did 14 years at the college level, then I did
Right,
15 years professionally. And
right.
I hear coaches say, man, players are changing. Now, this is my opinion. I don't think it's
Mhm.
so much the players are changing. I think the parents have changed. There's so much entitlement. They think that they're better than they are. They don't want to be told the truth. What is your experience with
That
dealing
that
with parents?
that right there, just what you just said, you said it perfectly. That right there, and which I just find dumbfounding. I mean, you see your kid, you could even show them. You see your kid didn't sprint back. You see your kid that's 6'5" that can jump out the gym and a little 5'5" person just out rebounding him. You see that? You know? So it's just yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. I tell those kids, because I started the program at La Lamere, which is a nationally recognized
Woo,
program
that's
now.
right.
And so, and that was really a fun experience for me because those kids, uh, La Lamere School was a great experience because 100% of the high school seniors go on to college.
That's right.
100%. And I've always been about education. I was what they call college prep back then. So I was in all the elevated academic classes, and I never forget. I'd never brought C's home, and I brought 3 C's home my freshman year, first report card. Ooh, you'd have thought I murdered somebody. Um,
Uh,
my parents, they said, "Do you want to play basketball?" What? Bring another C home. You won't touch a basketball.
See,
So
I love that.
I
We come
made
from
I
that
made
same
I made the
generation.
National Honor Society just not because I love school academically so much, but because there was nothing that was going to prevent me from playing basketball. I never brought another C home ever in high school. So that just was not going to happen, and it probably shouldn't happen the first time. But I just wasn't. I had very, very good memory. When you tell me something, I can remember, and I think that was a hazard or that a disability or something. I'm not coming up with the right word for me in high school because I could just last 5 minutes and look, and instead of going and studying and learning the information, understanding the information, um, I would get through that way. But I made sure I didn't ever have to see again.
I love
Yeah.
that. Love that. Hey, we got like a minute or 2 minutes left here. We've got Delray Brooks with us. Delray, give the biggest nugget that you could give to both a parent and to a player who wants to achieve at the highest levels of this game that's been so good to us.
As a parent, you want to support your child, um, provide whatever it is that's within your means to help support him, but understand your child on the flip side of that has to be committed, willing to make the sacrifices. If you want to be good at the game of basketball, you got to play it every day. I used to go to sleep with my ball in my bed. I'd lay on my back and shoot and hold my follow through. So, every single day you have got to do something to make yourself better than you were the day before, or it's not going to happen for you. And as you can see with the NBA draft, and my son who's involved in USA basketball, he said, "Dad, if things don't change, the NBA will be made up of international players." And he was the first one to tell me about Victor Wembanyama 3 years ago,
Yep.
because before he was with USA Basketball, he was with the Brooklyn Nets and then the Orlando Magic. So, um, and I know we're running out of time, but he started his career as a manager for Coach Pitino. So
Yep.
and he's able to tell between good programs, bad programs, good players, and he's
I
he
love
and he's
that. I
yeah,
love
he's a
and
lot more harsh than I am as far as looking at talent. So,
I love it
but
because I'll tell you what, coaching in FIBA around the globe as a head coach
yeah,
for 15 years,
yeah,
I saw Manu Ginobili before he came. I saw
right.
these
See,
Tony Parkers. I
right,
saw these guys who were playing professionally at age 14 and 15
yeah,
playing against men in a club system where
yeah,
where the game is cerebral and they're so skilled with the fundamentals that they're
yeah,
more prepared for the NBA because our AAU system is so saturated where they just play games, but yet they're not being taught the fundamentals of the game. So
right.
I know
And
that's
that,
a
and
whole
that,
nother discussion, but
yeah,
Delray, man, God bless you. I appreciate your time. This has
no
been so
problem.
much fun. Uh,
Yeah.
Really enjoyed chopping it up with you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, Delray Brooks here on the Coach Scott Field Show. It has been a wonderful hour. Share this information, subscribe to our channel, see us on exclusively on DBTV. It's been a great hour of basketball. Delray, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You bet, buddy.
All right.